Sukkah Berek Halacha in the Rambam. Sukkah Shenaz Hilchos Sukkah. A sukkah is made like according to Halacha Mikol Mokim shiur. It's in any place where it's done as a sukkah, it's kosher. Al Bishlo Nasa L'Shem Mitzvah. Even if you didn't make it for Shem Mitzvah, that means it was made as a house in your garden. So let's see what the Peirush says. It has to be made for shade in the summer. In Sukkah's Goyim made a sukkah like they have shade houses. Sukkah behemor for an animal, and others similar situations. The Mishnah cites Sukkah, Sukkah's Goyim, a Sukkah of Goyim shasur la'atzmon, they made it for themselves. Sukkah's Noshim, women they made it shasur la'atzmon. Avsheptur is Sukkah, even though women are part from Sukkah, because the Sukkah's mitzvah is a positive commandment that's time delineated, or that of an animal, that a person did it to keep his animals in the shade, or a Sukkah of Goyim. It's still a Sukkah, it's kosher, but it has to be covered by a Halacha. What does Halacha mean? Chizda says it was done for shade. They are called with an acronym of Ganboch. Goyim, Noshim, Behemoths, and Kusim. Kusim are those who came to reside in Israel after Sancheiriv brought them there, and first they kept the Jewish tradition, but then they left it. Now, Hilchos Sukkah cites that in the continuation is a brisa, Sukkah's Rak Bash, that's also Ksherim. What's the acronym of Rak Bash? Royim of shepherds, Kaitzim, those who cut the harvest, Borganim, those who watch the fields in small huts, and Shemei Peirush, those who watch the gardens. Royim, that he did because of the heat. They sit there and they watch their sheep. Kaitzim, these are people who put out the figs in the field to dry, and they make themselves a sukkah. They shouldn't dry out from the sun, and they sit there and they watch them dry. Burganim, these are people who watch the city. They have these little houses outside the city. Shemei Peirush are those who watch fruits. All of these are Jewish people. They didn't do it for the mitzvah, but rather for the shade. The writer tells us, as long as it's called a sukkah, it's kosher, but it has to be covered with proper schach. What's Hilchos Sukkah? It was made for shade. Rabbeinu Manoach cites that the Gemara explains that Ganboch were mentioned because it's more usually found. And Mikol Mokim they add, by saying any sukkah Mikol Mokim they add these others, Rakbash, that are less permanent. And the Tana of Sukkah's Rakbash mentions them because these people are all obligated to sit in the sukkah. Mikol Mokim comes also to add Ganboch, even though they're not obligated to stay in a sukkah. Bostoner Rebbe says in 635, as a Psak Halacha, a sukkah, even though it isn't made of Shem Mitzvah, it's kosher, but it has to be made for shade. The Mishnah cites from Rashi that even though that you don't have to do a sukkah for the festival, it has to be done for the concept of sukkah, which means a shady time. And that what's called shady is called a sukkah. It was made for modesty, like a bathhouse, or to live in it all the year, or a storage house. It's not a sukkah. And we know that all of these, the puts up the schach is because of the sun and not for modesty. And it's covered because somebody does for modesty doesn't do it that well. Bostoner explains, like sukkahs of the non-Jews, for women, for animals, for kusim, for shepherds, for those who were drying their figs, organim, and those who watch the city, and Shemei Sodas who watch the fields. Hilchos Sukkah cites from Rashi, Hilchos, what does Hilchos mean? That you have more shade than the sun. And he'd have to use something that's permitted to be used for a schach. And he adds, the Rabbi doesn't accept this, and he brings from Rabbeinu Tam that if he did it for shade, that he didn't leave a lot of schach, so that it's for keep away rain. It will be possible. If it's because he doesn't mention it, because even if it's thick, it's kosher. And why, when rain comes down, they permit it to go out? Because it becomes spoiled. And the food that's going to be in that the rain is dripping into it, he can put on so much schach that it won't go into it rain. He brings other proofs. And the Avi Ezri explains that Shimon, his brother-in-law, Rabbi Tam, used boards that didn't have dalet for tvachim. He made a good sukkah, like a kippah, a dome, and he even had it with nails. Rabbi Tam said, since rain doesn't go through it, it's possible. If he just placed them there, when I say that, it's kosher, because the rain will get through them. He brings them from the Rivon that most of the sukkahs of the shepherds are done for the sun and the rain, and it might mean that it helps a bit from the rain, but some rain comes in. If no rain goes in, it's possible. And he concludes that a machmir should receive blessing from Hashem for the mitzvah that he does. A sukkah that was made by itself, psula. It wasn't made for sale. For example, if a tree was uprooted, you can use the tree. Oh, it's perfect for a sukkah. But it was uprooted, you didn't do it. Somebody who cuts begodish in a hay rick, and he makes a hole of 10 tvachim, and he made a sukkah. It's not a sukkah because he did not stand it up there. It is a hay rick for shade. He did it to collect the hay together. Therefore, since straw is kosher, and when he took it out, was not placed for sale, and also b'tchilas halal, if he did leave a tefach open when he made the hay rick, b'meshach shiva tzachim long l'shem sukkah, for a sukkah, v'chotet bo achei kem yishlim l'yud, after he completed the hay rick, he then cut out another 6 tvachim, right? Because it was made as schach and not for shade. Magen Mishnah cites Sukkah 16a, and he explains that at the time of making the hay rick, before you put the straw on top, he made a hole in it. There's a tevach for sukkah. Then the cash that goes on top of it is considered a tent on the 7 tvachim, and therefore when afterwards he makes it deeper or wider, it's kosher because it was done at least the halal tefach. It's called schach l'shem tzel. The case of Mishnah brings from the Ran, seen from Rashi, that only if he cut out after he has this one tefach from above below it's kosher, that he leaves the schach as it is. He doesn't touch the schach. But if he goes through what he put on top, it's possible, because the schach that was there to originally begin with is not there any longer, and what is now there was not put on as schach. It became schach afterwards. And he brings others who say that even if he goes upwards instead of downwards, it's kosher, since he has a hole of a tefach, the whole width of the whole thickness of the hay rick, even if it's called 10 tvachim high, it's called schach. When he takes it out to make the hole to add to the 1 tefach another 9, there's still schach kosher on top. Shulchan Aruch in 635 says the halacha is that a sukkah that was made by itself, it's possible because it wasn't made for shade, and therefore if you cut out in the hay rick, you make a sukkah. It's not a sukkah because you didn't stand the hay rick for that purpose, for shade. What he did afterwards is already from something that's there and not you're making it. However, if he did it to begin with, and he left a hole of a tefach, which was 7 tvachim long, and afterwards he added to it, it's kosher because he has a schach l'tzel. The Mishnah Berurah explains 7 Tvachim doesn't mean length only, it means 7 by 7. Menoach cites that that's the opinion of most of those who state the halacha. Mishnah Berurah adds that it helps both ways that the Ran says. If it was a Chal Tevach in its height, and from there till the earth it was full of hay, and he took that away from the bottom, or that the hole was, the first Tevach was on the earth, and above it he cut out afterwards, it's still called, it's kosher, not like Rashki, who feels only if you cut out below, it's kosher, but not if you cut out into the schach, which was once the roof, it's not kosher.